Welcome to the Pipeline award-winning show. As always, I am your host, Jason Gibbs. You can find me on Twitter at Pipeline_. You can find me coming through your speakers right now. Another great week of college football. Good as last week for the casual, at least. But let's get to it with my co-host, Mike. Mike, what do we think about this upcoming week, especially when we talk about comparing it to last week?
Yeah, coming off of a very exciting week one, as we spoke about last week, one of the most exciting week ones that we've experienced ever since.
Really.
Historic, yeah, it was definitely one of the more historic week ones that we've ever experienced. A lot of these teams are going to be licking their wounds from week one, especially the North Carolina Tar Heels. I know that we touched on them last week, and I know that everybody's been talking.
I'm not abandoning the Belichick prediction yet. I'm not abandoning it yet. I do have severe reservations. Hopefully, that's not going to be clipped and thrown in my face a few years down the road. But
I'll tell you what, they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. So that's the 33rd NFL team is definitely they will not be making the Super Bowl. So. A lot of teams licking their wounds. But yeah, I'm excited. Football's finally back. It is a Thursday night right now. So there's a Eagles and Cowboys game. So the NFL's back as well. I'm a happy man for sure.
Yeah. So just a side note, don't spit on players. That would be rule number one, I think, in football. But I think Jalen Carter learned that the hard way tonight. But that's the NFL. Let's get to college. Mike, we talked about a historic week one, did huge numbers ratings-wise. And I do want to think about this week two will be really the first week in eons that we don't have Lee Corso. I know there's been a couple where he wasn't able to make the trip, but I think very frequently they did some sort of video or recording where he did his headgear pick. But going forward right now, obviously Lee Corso, the legend, retired. That made me think of who is your college football, and we've talked about this kind of offline. Who's your college football Mount Rushmore if we're talking about announcers and college football personalities? And we kind of came up with our four. I think number one, you have to say Keith Jackson, just an iconic voice, historic calls, big moments, really just up there with some of the greats, or I think I would put him at 1A if I'm talking about college football announcers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Keith Jackson, definitely one of the all-time greats. I got to say he's got to be up there. For me,
I would say 1B though. 1B right behind him would be Brent Musburger, because Brent Musburger, the second he came on, you were looking live. You knew it was going to be
looking live.
It was, and if you ever needed someone to possibly sexually harass the crowd, he was your guy. He was going to get right in there. He was going to do his thing.
And I do have to say that catchphrase at the beginning of every game, you are looking live. I mean, it was just electric, man. You can't get more. It got you excited for the game, ready to go. Definitely, Brent Musburger has to be 1A or 1B, as you mentioned.
And he's done it since the 70s. I don't know if you've ever looked up old pictures of Brent Musburger when he's in like an all plaid suit. Absolutely electric factory. And he did, I saw him this summer when he was doing, I think, the Hall of Fame game, and they went to him at halftime, and he just still has it, Mike. He still has every bit of the mojo that he had back then. But if we look at number three, I think we got to put Lee Corso. We just talked about him, absolute legend. And really, I can make an argument that he is responsible for how popular college football is and the growth of it. Because I don't know if you caught the ESPN special, Not So Fast, My Friend, but you could just see as they went on the road, and he, especially when he got the headgear thing going, it just got bigger and bigger. And then it was just a sea of humanity. And it's just really hard to imagine it getting to that same plane without Lee Corso.
Yeah, I got to say, I could probably speak for a lot of college football fans out there that they got a little emotional this past Saturday morning. I know that I had some dust in my eyes where my wife thought
your allergies kicked in. Yeah,
my allergies were kicking in that morning for sure. But yeah, college football just isn't going to be the same without Lee Corso. He's every Saturday morning, you could count on him being on your television and picking that game of the week. So it's definitely it's a sad moment to see him go. I think I like the guys on game day right now. So I do think that we'll still have enjoyable Saturday mornings for sure, but it was definitely a sad moment to see him go and see his last Saturday on game day.
Definitely. But if we're looking at number 4, I think we had a little bit of discrepancy, a little bit of I don't want to say arguing between us, but maybe difference of opinion. Who do you have at your 4th for college football announcers, personalities, Mount Rushmore?
I have Lisan Al-Gaib. Timothy Chalamet, for those that didn't watch Dune. Timmy knows ball. I think
BK Chalamet.
I think watching that game day, we were all very surprised. We all know that our wives loved him. We couldn't tell why, but we all found out that one Saturday that it was because he just knows ball better than our favorite announcer. So no, I mean, all jokes aside, it was very cool to see him on college game day and make those picks. It was really cool to see that
I think he'd be on the ball knowers Mount Rushmore. If I'm picking it, I think I'm going to go with Eminem when he was actually in the booth with Brent Musburger and Kirk Herbstreit. Just total staring out into space. Maybe he was on drugs, maybe he wasn't. I'm not sure, but just an electric factory. Eminem in the booth. He's going to be my 4th Mount Rushmore, college football announcer.
Slim Shady.
Real
Slim Shady.
So let's turn the page to this week's games. As we mentioned last week, we had the 3 top 5 matchups, historic on that level. This week, we're going to get the casual fans saying there's no good games on. But the diehards like you and I, we're going to be stuck to the TV. We're going to be watching 58 straight hours of college football. What's one game that you're thinking about that maybe it's not on the mainstream radar, but that's kind of catching your attention?
Yeah, I think one game that really interests me this upcoming weekend is the Fighting Illini of Illinois against the Duke Blue Devils. I think the Blue Devils are flying under the radar for a lot of folks. For people that are paying attention, they got Mensah from Tulane. He was a transfer from Tulane from last year. He brought Tulane to, I believe, an 11-win season, maybe a 10-win season. But the Blue Devils look really good this year, and of course the Fighting Illini, they're a dark horse for the college football playoffs. So I think that this game could catapult the Blue Devils into a sort of a similar discussion that the Fighting Illini are in. So I'm definitely excited about this game. I think it might be a 2 or 3 point spread, so it should be a good one for college football fans. It's one that I know the Illini are ranked 11. The Blue Devils are unranked, but I do think that's one that's going to be a great matchup and a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, 2.5 point spread. It will be interesting. Every time you see something like that, we just talked about Lee Corso. We got to go to the old somebody somewhere knows something. So in a similar vein, I'm going to go Arizona State traveling to Stark Vegas and taking on Mississippi State. Kind of made some headlines on Twitter this week when they were simulating the cowbells and they had maybe 2 or 3 people ringing cowbells. And I was thinking, I think you're going to have to up that order of magnitude or more. So can Sam Levitt and company go into Starkville? They did handle them last year, but it was really a closer game than maybe that final outcome looked. But I got to think of a name. I got to think of a nickname for Sam Levitt. I was thinking Sam Levitt B.
Leon Levitt B. Yeah, we'll come up with something for sure.
Yeah. Drop any nicknames you have for any players, drop them in the chat because we're going to incorporate them, especially as the pod goes on and we're going to get bigger and bigger, do more things, lots of fun stuff. So if you have any ideas, drop them in the chat.
Even for us, if you have a nickname for me, definitely drop them in the chat.
Well, I already got my nickname. I don't know if you can see it.
Pony Boy. There we go. I love it.
All right, Mike, let's go to our All Eyes on Me. Channel our innermost Tupac Shakur. All Eyes on Me. What is a player, maybe a coach, maybe a team, where all eyes are going to be on them this week, whether it be good or bad?
Yeah, I'll give you two players right off the bat, and I'm gonna stick in South Carolina for both of them. The first one I'll give you is Cade Klubnik. I think after a very shaky week 1 performance, and of course I talked about him last week as well. I'm not very high on Cade Klubnik, but I think that
you don't want to tell us you told us so, but you did tell us so.
But yes, I'm going to tell you that I told you so for sure.
Cade, I got thrown out of the Klubnik.
Yeah, so the Clemson Tigers have Troy this upcoming weekend, so I think this will definitely be a bounce back game for him. I think that he definitely has to prove it. And week 1, it was a very weak performance for him. He didn't get his usual 15 yards late hit out of bounds down the field. I'm only joking, of course, but I do think that it's a prove it sort of weekend for him. So I think over the next couple of weeks he'll definitely have to get things together. And then, of course,
damning stat for Cade Klubnik against SEC teams: 0-4, 0 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Not good, Fred. Not good.
Not good. Yeah, definitely not good. But speaking of the SEC and staying in South Carolina, on the other side of the ball, I'm going to go with Lenoris Sellers. He is highly regarded and often thought as of one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But I thought Virginia Tech this past weekend definitely held him. They limited him this past weekend when we thought, or at least I thought, South Carolina should probably run away with that game. But I was really impressed with the Virginia Tech defense, and I thought Lenoris Sellers didn't have the best game that he possibly could have had. So again, he has another kind of clean it up game this weekend with South Carolina State. That will be my third player from South Carolina State that I'll give you after this as an all eyes on me player. I'm joking. But yeah, Lenoris Sellers, I think that this will be a get right game for him as well. And I think that he's the kind of guy that we'll be talking about later in the year as a possible award winner.
So I'm thinking of Lenoris buyers or sellers, or Lenoris wine sellers. We'll have to figure out. We'll have to settle on one. Maybe fine wine sellers. I don't know if that's actually a thing. I don't have too many wine sellers, but he did have a touchdown that was kind of called off. It was a touchdown, but we had a few of those in week 1. He did have a couple of drops, so maybe his stat line would have been a little bit bigger. But I did think Virginia Tech did a so-so job of kind of keeping him in check. For me, I'm going to go with Alabama's head coach, Kalen DeBoer. Now, we remember last week, Florida State played. Let's see a second. Hold on a second. Get my glasses on. The cue card says that they played Alabama, but it didn't look like Alabama, Mike. It was quite the departure from the Nick Saban era, I guess I would say. I can't tell you the last time I saw Alabama punched in the face, bullied, lack of effort. It was just all over the place. You never at any point thought they had a chance to win. And I know maybe it's not fair to compare Kalen DeBoer to Nick Saban, the greatest college coach of all time, but I don't ever remember a game when Saban was involved that I thought, okay, Alabama's out of the game. No matter what, I felt like they could scratch and claw and maybe bully their way back in the game. That was never the case. And so I know they play ULM this week, so obviously they're a huge favorite. But let's say they win 37-23. That is not going to settle down Tide Nation, and we're going to have the heat turned up on his seat quite a bit. For my guy, okay, go ahead.
Sorry. So two things that I want to add to that is that I believe this past weekend, Kalen DeBoer buyout was trending on Twitter. So
Never a good thing. Never a good thing.
Never a good thing when that's trending. I believe the buyout was 68 million, so or above 60 million or something like that. So I think that the Tide fans can forget about that right now. But it's never a good thing, as you said, that's trending. And to your point, I do want to point out that it's very rare that somebody has talked their talk about Alabama and the Crimson Tide before the game in the offseason and then gone and punched him right in the mouth, like you said, and proved it. So, kudos to Castellanos and Florida State for doing that and pulling that off. But it's very rare. It's not something that Alabama fans are accustomed to.
Thomas Castellanos with a deep drive to left. You're right. He talked his talk. He walked his walk. Impressive, to say the least. And Florida State kind of had nothing to lose, and they played like it. And can they keep that up? That would be great for Seminole fans, especially one you and I know personally. I think he'd be pretty excited about now. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Kalen DeBoer. One note on your buyout talk, though. One interesting thing is Kalen DeBoer's buyout would be done monthly. So it's not an all-at-once sum. It's not nearly as prohibitive as, say, I think Mark Stoops, which I think would be like, I think Mark Stoops is like 31 million. I think I read this on Twitter, but it's all at once. So if you had a poor showing against the ULM, or maybe down the road you kept adding some losses, I think there's more of a chance than if it were, one lump sum.
It's similar to your buyout with Pypeline. So it's almost about that same amount.
My Pypeline buyout's $1 a day forever. So it's going to be $365 a year.
Yeah. Or one Wawa hoagie. One Wawa hoagie. Just
meatball hoagie, hold the cheese. I was trying to talk the cheese into my contract, but they didn't go for it. So, all right, let me see what else we got. You want to do 5 picks?
Sure.
Yeah. Call it a day. All right, let me go here. All right, Mike, let's get to our 5 picks this week. These are betting picks that you can absolutely bet the rent or the mortgage on, because we're going 5-0 straight to the top. We're going to start out with that exact Illinois game that you had mentioned. Illinois, we'll say -2.5 at Duke. You like the Illini? You like the Blue Devils here?
I actually like the Blue Devils here. I know the Illini had a great season last year and they're ranked number 11, but I'm very high on Darian Mensah with the Duke Blue Devils. I think that they can surprise some folks this upcoming weekend, and they might come away with the victory. So I'll go with Duke for this one.
I'm going to go with Duke too. Just 2.5 doesn't seem like enough, and Wallace Wade Stadium probably going to be packed for this game. And to your point earlier, if they can win this, they can start getting momentum. The ACC is not viewed as great. I haven't looked at Duke's schedule extensively. I'd have to kind of study it to see if there's a way that maybe they can start climbing up the ladder and maybe get some favorable breaks. What about the only ranked matchup of the week? We got Michigan traveling to Norman, Oklahoma. Going to be a good game. I think game day's there. I think Josh Pate's going to be there. 1,900 victories between the two schools, 17 national championships. Bryce Underwood certainly looks the part for Michigan. John is elementary material for Oklahoma, Heisman favorite, one of the Heisman favorites. Who do you have here? Oklahoma -7 at home.
Yeah, when you combine the amount of national championships the teams have, it almost is about as many as Auburn claims. So
that's true.
I do have to say
those two combined are almost equal Auburn.
Almost equal to the total of Auburn. But for this one here, I think the Sooners are favored by 7. So I'm gonna go you know what? I'm going to go with the Sooners. I think Mateer, he's one of my Heisman favorites for this upcoming year, and I think that this game is where he really starts to separate himself from the pack. I think, I know it's just week 2, but I know Arch Manning came into the season as the favorite, and week 1 didn't really live up to the billing that people that had expected. But I'm going to go with John Mateer having a breakout game. And really putting himself on the map and establishing himself as the favorite for at least the next couple of weeks here in college football.
So I do wonder how Bryce Underwood going on the road to a hostile crowd. Obviously, Oklahoma fans are going to be rabid, and they kind of need to get back on track this year. Brent Venables' defense. I'm with you. I'm going to lay the points on the Sooners. I don't think Underwood has enough help on the outside to really maximize his level, but next year, watch out. Michigan's going to be tough. If they can get at all any sort of thing on, like a normal Michigan year on the recruiting trail, they're going to be a very tough out next year. And they're going to be a tough out as they go on this year, as he gets more seasoned. Obviously, we're assuming no injuries, but yeah.
I'm with you. I mean, Underwood, it's really hard to really have too much of expectations of any freshman player, let alone a quarterback. So I do think that there's a bright future for Bryce Underwood. And even this year, I think he could end up being a really great player. But as a freshman going in to Norman, Oklahoma, that's just a very tall order. So again, yeah, I agree with the Sooners pick here.
For our third game, the border war hasn't been played, I think, since 2011. Missouri and your Kansas Jayhawks. Missouri -6.5-point favorite, Mike, at home. A lot of insane memes this week. Well, I think most of them we have to leave off this pod because they're not family friendly. Going back and forth between the two fan bases, but Missouri -6.5 hosting Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas, one of the only 2-0 teams in the country right now, right? So that'll be interesting.
They're leading the CFP right now. They're in first place in the CFP, 2-0.
Nice. Well, I'm going to go with the Jayhawks. I do think that they also have one of the more electric quarterbacks in the country when he's healthy. Jaden Daniels, right? I believe is his name.
Jalen.
Yeah. Jalen Daniels. I always call him Jaden Daniels, but
yeah, Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels. Yes, got it.
I call them both. Yes, the twin of Jaden Daniels. I'm gonna go with the Kansas Jayhawks here. I do think that it'll be a very tough matchup for Missouri. I do think Brent Pribula, I believe it, or how do you say Pribula? He was a quarterback from Penn State last year. I think he had an amazing first game. He came out, I think he threw for over 300 yards, looked fantastic. But I do think that the Jayhawks at least keep this one close, and I see it being within a touchdown at the end of the game. So I'm not exactly sure if I'm willing to go out on a limb to say who I think is going to actually win, but I do think the Jayhawks keep it close.
Pribula is interesting because I've talked to quite a few Penn State fans in my DMs, and they really wanted to keep him. In fact, some of them wanted him over Drew Aller. So, I mean, that's normally it's the old saying that the backup quarterback is the most, popular guy on a team. But I think I'm going to go. I know we've gone 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go with you as well. Kansas +6.5. I'm going to take the points here. Hopefully it's a field goal type game and we can cash the ticket. University of Virginia, the Fighting Danny Siegs at NC State. NC State 3-point favorite. What do we think here?
I'm going to go with the Cavaliers of Virginia. I think that this upcoming year, NC State still has a pretty young quarterback with MJ Morris as well. So I think that in the first game against the Pirates, the Wolfpack they left a lot to be desired, especially because it was a home game for the Wolfpack, right? And the Pirates didn't. They're not. Their roster is pretty bleak this year. So the fact that it was even a close game to begin with isn't a really great sign for the Wolfpack, at least in this second game against Virginia. I do think Andre Green, he's a transfer from North Carolina. It's his second year in the program. It'll be interesting to see how he's wide receiver he's originally from Virginia, but transferred from North Carolina. So he's put on some weight. It'll be interesting to see how he does. And Calandria is an interesting quarterback. He's definitely one of those guys where you live or you die by him, right? He can have a great game and really blow up the defense, but then he can also turn over the ball pretty easily. So, but I think that this game, NC State doesn't really have the heavy hitters that they normally have on the defense. So I'm going to go with the Cavaliers here.
I think I'm gonna deviate. I was thinking Cavs, but I think I'm gonna deviate and say NC State has a bounce back win. Bounce back. They didn't lose, but like you said, they didn't play kind of up to par. They definitely didn't cover versus ECU. And at home in Raleigh, first game or first. Actually, this is a non-conference game, believe it or not. It's one of those weird where two conference teams play, but it doesn't count as far as in the conference standings. But I'm going to go MJ Morris makes enough plays, and the Wolfpack get the victory. Final game, fight for Florida. Loser leaves the state. USF at University of Florida in Gainesville. Gators minus 19. DJ Lagway, does he do it? Does he cover the spread? What do you think, Mike?
I'm going to go with USF. Byram, the quarterback for South Florida. I think he had a fantastic first game. He really blew up that Central Florida defense. I believe they played Central Florida in week 1. Or was it Boise State?
Yeah, Boise.
It was Boise, sorry. Yeah, so he really blew up that Boise defense. They blew them out, and that was totally unexpected. I do think that he's a very underrated quarterback. He's actually from Rollsville, North Carolina, I believe. So he made it out the state down to South Florida, and I think that he could be. I think he's going to keep the game close. He's electric, so I'm going to go with South Florida for this one.
I'm going to lay the points here. I'm not totally sure. I kind of was leaning your way, but I'm thinking maybe USF has a kind of a letdown after the big Boise State victory. People are championing them as possible G5 contender for the playoffs. Maybe it goes to their head because obviously it's not a team that has a ton of success historically speaking. So I'm going to lay the points. I'm going to say I won't back down against USF, and Florida covers the 19-point spread.
You know what's funny is during this whole conversation, it got really dark. So now I'm just sitting here in the dark. There's a window right in front of me, so I have great lighting. But we've been talking for so long that now I'm just sitting here in the dark.
Right.
So
I was thinking, I kept looking and I was like, is it getting darker there? Was it like this the whole time? I wasn't, I wasn't paying total attention, but
yeah. So now
next time we'll do the entire pod in the dark.
Yeah. You can see the, morning sunset to the sunrise to the sunset in the evening. So we'll do that 24-hour stream next time.
Right. We'll make the next stream will definitely be darker. Yeah. Mark my words on that.
Yeah, and not just because Sunil will be on the pod. But.
Right, exactly. But Mike, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Pipeline Award-winning show. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your lovers. Hopefully, it's not all the same people. We'll see you guys next time on the Pipeline Award-winning show.